Hey guys, got some fun stuff today. I continue to try different blades in my Wolfman WR1 46 gap, and today the legendary Personna Tungsten 74. It's a vintage blade, not currently in production as far as I know. It is renowned for giving long blade life to most people, or at least on average, longer than what a guy is normally able to get. So let's just see what happens when we put it in the WR1. See if it's comfortable, that sort of thing. And we are going to use, again, the Declaration Grooming B9A. And this is a TDR, that darn Rob handle. He changed his name, business name, to Chisel and Hound. And also Stirling's recent winter in 2020 seasonal release, Alighieri. I'm just going to pronounce it that way in case that's my best guess. I believe it's a Fahrenheit clone or a dupe or inspired by, and it's a wonderful cologne type scent, famous. And so I think it's one of those that's kind of proven that a lot of people like it. Definitely one that probably had some people jump on it in terms of Stirling sales, and it may even still be available on the I think the clearance page, the sale page, or at least the seasonals page on Stirling's site. I think some of those seasonals just get wiped out. I don't know if they expected this one to do really well, and so they made a lot more of it. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's not as popular as I thought. I think it's a cologne that's kind of back in the day, and so there are, it may not be new and fresh, something like that. I have a 2-day beard growth today. Got busy yesterday evening and just didn't have a chance to get around to it. Let's take and put the blade in the razor. I have shaved with this blade a few times, I think. And I made put an M on there for marathon. We'll definitely see how many uses this guy will give us. Okay, so there are some guys out there who are shaving with these Wolfman razors at such big gaps, 1.05, just crazy. Now, wait, is that the WR2? I can't remember. Yeah, that probably is the WR2. I think more like 0.8, stuff like that for the WR1 is where it starts to get more aggressive, if my memory serves. All right. Oh, it's a good scent. It's got a little pungency to it. I mean, it's not pungent, but it's not on that smooth side of the spectrum. It's got a little zest. Got a little zest to it. All right, get my face wet. And let's load up with Stirling, usually about, I don't know, 20, 25 seconds. Let's just stick with that. Shake much of the water out of the brush. It holds a good bit. And 25 seconds, let's just do that. Right at the 0 mark, so it's easy to go to 25, do the math. This one has soft tips. They're not crazy soft, but they're soft and comfortable tips. I'm happy with the tips. It's just the backbone of this brush is more than I like. And so I'm hoping that with some use, he will increase in ease of splay. He'll get easier to splay and all those other fun, soft, luxury-related words. All right. Just see if this guy was able to gather up as much soap as my other brushes do from Stirling. You can feel the backbone of the brush as you work it in the bowl here. You can tell it's different than other brushes that I have. Nice scent coming up from the bowl. The description of the video contains a pasted text from Stirling describing the scent if you're interested in details on it. And they may have actually not given very many details since it's such a well-known fragrance. You may be just as well served to look at, maybe try that soap or something like that that may actually list out the scent notes. Yeah, it looks like we've got enough soap in here. I just added a teaspoon and we've got a good bit of lather going already. Add another teaspoon. How much water to add just depends on how much soap the brush was able to pick up, and so that's why the water and soap ratios are all kind of brush dependent. Many soaps will also change depending on how much water is in the brush. Some soaps will release more soap with a little bit more water added when the brush, is touching it and working it. Some soaps you get too much water on them and they kind of stop letting the brush, at least soft brushes, pull up more soap. Yeah, see, look at that. We've got nice, plenty of lovely lather. Half teaspoon. This is a firm brush with a lot of backbone, even at 24 millimeters. I had the 28 millimeter and was hoping that also had firm backbone, and I was hoping by reducing the knot I would perhaps get easier splay, and I did not. What probably happened, and this is of course something that Scott at Declaration Grooming definitely keeps in mind when he's knotting these brushes, he'll take that 24 millimeter diameter and he'll apply a formula to it. Often it's 2 times the diameter of the knot. That's what where the loft should be set in terms of height. And so if you keep that ratio, then some brushes will not get easier to splay when you have a smaller knot, because that ratio kind of takes that into account. But if I can luck out and find a B9A that maybe was lofted a bit higher than standard, I might be in good. That might be the one that I need. And this lather, Stirling, is so good. It really is. This is their normal beef tallow base. I mean, so many other soaps would be lucky to look and work this good. It's got a nice sheen to it. Just happens to be one of those soaps that gives you a good sheen. Some don't. That's nothing wrong with that. It's just some do and some don't. Oh, good scent. Since this brush has a lot of backbone, I may not take the Stirling lather quite as far as I usually do. So now we've got 4 teaspoons in it of water. And plenty of lather, so we definitely don't have to worry. See it in the beginning? Remember, the brush did not look like it had a lot of soap. Well, that's Stirling's forte. You don't have to have a lot of soap to get a lot of lather. Some of the newer makers are adding butters and moisturizing ingredients to help with post-shave feel, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times they require more product to get this kind of lather. All right, let's just use this. Get my face wet again. So you ask, with this much backbone, do you experience scrub with this brush? Kinda, but not really. It's the softness of the tips kind of prevent me from feeling lots of scrub, definitely not any scritch. It just feels like it's almost like if you would have put the last 4 millimeters of these hairs, these tips, glue them all onto a tennis ball. That's kind of how this feels. I don't enjoy it at all. This is extra reluctant display today. Extra ornery. But my hope is that with some more uses, it will improve. But I am not. I'm probably saying that is at this point, I think that result is probably 2% likely to happen. Probably not going to happen. Very good. I've got plenty of lather, so if I want to go back and lay a little bit more on because of that extra day of growth, I can do that. Oh, I can feel that slickness. Could even need more water, potentially. Just see what happens. Tungsten 74 vintage blade in a WR1 46 gap. A very mild, whoa. I don't think that is cutting very well, and I think that's why it feels amazing. That will be interesting. And this does not have a lot of uses on it. Interesting. Is this going to take like 8 passes? Is it removing hair just so gradually? You'll have to look in the description. I'm hoping to get a lot of uses out of this blade, and so I haven't really started putting any dots on the envelope. Maybe it's just it could be a thicker blade, and so it puts itself at a very different place, angle with this particular razor head, because you've got the let's say this is the edge of the safety bar, you've got the top cap up here, and so then the blade is somewhere in between. And if it's thicker, then it could just sit in a different place, especially with such a mild gap. With something more aggressive, it might have a bigger chance to kind of show itself and be less prone to this type of experience. But we'll just keep using it and just see what we get. Yeah, I definitely feel like it's very different than all the modern blades that I've used with this lately. Could even take some of this extra lather and just kind of go around a little bit. I mean, it's super comfortable because I don't think it's doing a very good job of shaving. This is really interesting. Maybe my next little while needs to be me trying out this blade in different razors. Maybe that needs to be my next project. Well, I'm glad I have lots of lather because I may be doing lots of passes. Pass number 2. Picked a great soap to do lots of passes with. Let me just check it to see if something has gone wrong or if it's not tight enough. It looks good. I'll do another with the grain pass. Just see what happens. This seems to be more grabby. Now this side does not. Slickness is excellent. That's just crazy. Might have to get a counter at this point to count how many passes I do. This is the third. Let's try across the grain here. Kind of feeling some tugging. Maybe this blade is just not a friend to the geometry in this razor. Because when I start doing a cross grain pass, it starts to kind of let me know, hey, wonderful residual slickness here. I can just go back over areas. Easily. Man, it's just, there's so much stubble left. I have with me my WR2, which is different than the WR1. The geometry is different. The way, as I explained before, the base plate and the top cap interact, all those are different. And so that's why the range of values, the range of gaps for the WR2 are different than the range of values for the WR1. Let's see if the WR2 happens to be a better match for the WR1. I don't even know if I put out another couple of passes if I would actually get a shave if I kept going with this WR1. So let's take the same blade, put it in the WR2. I have used this blade with good success in other razors, and so it's got to be just the specific geometry of that WR1. I don't have a more aggressive WR1, and so I can't compare that. So all I can do is compare the WR2. This one's brushed metal, and I love it. It's got the H3 handle. All right. And my Stirling Lather is not having a problem at all. Not dissipating. It's holding together great. And yep, face is still pretty wet, so we can go ahead and put some on. I mean, some of the stubble as I was rinsing felt like it hadn't even been touched. Very curious about why that is. Surely the blade didn't, I used it a few times I think, and then I put it away. Surely that didn't cause a degradation of the edge, right? Now this feels like it's doing a better job cutting. Wouldn't that be interesting? To have this blade just happens to have geometry with the edge that causes it to be almost unusable in the WR1 at that gap. I'm sure a WR1 at a higher gap is probably going to work better because you get more blade exposure. This has been a very smooth second pass. It's not cutting amazingly, but it is cutting a lot better. Okay, rinse. All right. I'm glad I had a plethora of soap today. Because we scrubbed a lot on that first pass, we don't really need to do too much of that on the future passes. So quick application is no problem. Cross grain. Some strokes, I just don't even feel it cutting at all. Maybe with this setup, I could go against the grain, which is something I never am able to do. Rinse. The shave is getting there. So this is the 6th pass. How about that? Cross grain again. Oh, you know what? Let's take kind of a, why don't we try it against the grain? I'm not going to be able to show you good against the grain technique because I never do it. Wouldn't that be funny? See it going this way, it just feels like there's nothing there. Going full against the grain right there though, it kind of pulls on me too hard. Feel like I'm going to get some irritation. This right here from the bottom to the top is not an against the grain pass for me, but it does have a slight against the grain part to it. Let's see, my hair goes down this way. Okay, so against the grain right here would be kind of like this. Let's offset it just a little bit. And then against the grain right in this tricky patch is from here up toward this side of my chin. Let's not do a full tilt. Let's just do south to north. And that'll have about a 45-degree against the grain aspect to it. And this is working. How about that craziness? Rinse. Finally, after 6 passes, I think we can kind of call the first 3 passes with the WR1 a wash. And starting at pass 4, it's really kind of pass number 1 where I actually was able to start cutting some hairs. I did not experience with rinsing and cool water. I didn't really experience any irritation or anything like that. I definitely want to use cool water right here since I'm going against the grain. That cooling is going to be very helpful in calming down irritation. Let's do that ATG pass. Can you believe you're hearing me say that? Let's do that one more time. Well, let's visually look because there's plenty of splotches that need more work. I may give myself a bunch of razor burn doing this, but I so rarely have razor burn. I mean, pretty much never, at least in large quantities. So why not a little bit, right? Something to learn from. All right, against the grain-ish. And then I'm going to quit. And when I rinse my razor, I'm definitely going to use kind of cool water to do it. That way I have a nice cool razor head moving over my skin. It's kind of got definitely a soothing element to it. And you can put a slant on your razor, which helps to remove a little bit of the aggressive feel. I'm still not pressing harder to try to get those hairs. I'm still just keeping it light. And maybe kind of just spot checking visually, because some of these hairs are not even getting cut. But when I see them and I target them specifically, then they get knocked down. Yeah, and there we go. That's a nice cut. How about that? 7 shaves, 7 passes. Now my face is going to enjoy. I do feel some slight irritation just from so many passes and from having to go against the grain to make any headway at all. I'll bet sticking with cross grain, I could have had 8 or 9 passes and I still may not have gotten there. So the tungsten does not agree with the mild end of either the W1 or the W2, but it really doesn't agree. It just doesn't even work with the WR1 and my beard. How about that? That is, never had that happen. I totally did not expect to severely need a balm today because the 74 has given me such good shaves. But just didn't work out today with this razor, with both of them kind of really. And I am going to enjoy letting my skin soak up this balm and kind of let it work on me and help my skin to bounce back for tomorrow. Wow. Left my face a little moist, makes it much easier to spread around. I don't really need it to be super thick. It'll be white on my skin there for a few minutes and then it'll absorb. And this is Executive Man. And the scent is very different as I'm smelling it now, as opposed to when I have not used another cologne type scent like this one. So they obviously have some notes in common perhaps, and so that's letting me have a different appreciation for the notes that are in Executive Man, which is a Creed Aventus dupe, and this is a Fahrenheit. The soap is a Fahrenheit dupe. So Stirling today is the product range. 4 teaspoons of water was used to make that amazing lather, and we had 7 passes, and looks like I could easily squeeze out one more pass, maybe even 2. So I am glad that I loaded a little too much soap today, because I ended up really needing it. Well, I tell you what, Scott Stewart of Declaration Grooming is the place to go if you like very dense brushes with lots of backbone. You'll have so many choices, and definitely be able to find something that you like. I mean, not too many choices, but I mean, whether you send him a handle and use the reknotting surface, which is what I advise you do, because trying to get a drop on those existing brush handles that he has on his website is super hard. I've never tried doing it, but every single time I've ever been to that page, they've all been sold out. But you can always go and buy a handle from somebody else, like Chisel and Hound, aka That Darn Rob, or Craving Shaving, or there are some different handle manufacturers out there. You've got the different handles on AliExpress, that you can do. Wolf Whiskers, Wild West, the Umo has knots as well as just handles. Yaki has some handles as well. So, and those are on the cheaper side. You can send any of those to Scott, and he will knot it for you. And you might be able to pick between 2 different batches depending on how everything goes. Batch 9 is in the past. I know that batch 11 is out, but right now you may be able to choose 10 or 11. I'm not sure. Sometimes if you're between 2 batches, then you can choose between one or the other. And then it takes some research, because he may tell you a little bit online, but usually you're going to have to rely on reviews from other people who have tried the 2 batches you're having a question about to know information. Or if you know that, hey, I like B5s, then you have to try to ask a question online. How does the new B11 feel compared to a B5? Something like that. Some people, if you like density and you like backbone, then you don't have to do as much research, because his have plenty of density, plenty of backbone. He will also often tell you about the jelliness. This one, the tips aren't really jelly, which I do like. The tips are soft enough for me here, but sometimes many of his batches will gel big time, and that's something else to look out for. Well, that's it, guys. That's just a crazy thing. Face feels good. I don't have any I have just a little bit of almost like itchiness, but that'll go away very, very soon. I am crazy wondering why it's taken so long for this little guy to go away. 2 weeks, maybe. That's weird. So yeah, I ended up getting a good shave, but you saw what it took to get there. These mild Wolfman razors must just not be suited for the angle, the thickness perhaps of the blade. I believe this is a little thicker than our more modern DE blades. The soap was just wonderful, awesome Stirling performance as usual, and the scent is really enjoyable. I'm glad I picked it up. And I can see why it was such a popular scent whenever it was popular. I didn't know about it at the time whenever it was a big deal. So there we go. And again, the brush was too firm. But we'll just keep using it and see if it does change. Maybe 15 or 20 uses and see what happens. All right, guys. There we go. 2 days worth of growth shaved off. And I believe if I would have started with the WR2, that it would have just taken the 3 or 4 passes that I did with that razor, and that would have been just fine. I don't really think the WR1 did anything very much at all. So it would have been a normal shave. But I'm really glad I tried the one, because I got this crazy result. Very interesting. You guys, take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I hope there's something good in this one, if just a joke and an experiment. And hit this one for you. Take care now. Bye.